Hey guys, it's me KSMR here, and today I'm going to be reading Inoikawa Toru X Listener. This one is titled We Won't, and yeah, without further ado, let's get right on into the video. He didn't mean any harm. He never did. That was one of the things he said to you, and you believed it because it was true. But it hurt you the same, nonetheless. Oikawa's words were sharp like knives. While his voice felt like music each time he would talk, he was still incredibly skilled at making people bleed. In fact, back when you had just met him, that was one of the things that appealed to you. It was strange, but the idealist in you couldn't help but feel charmed by the fact that the young man can use his words to encourage and comfort others so well. But what you hadn't anticipated was how he could use them to hurt and manipulate others. Because why would you? There was no reason your lover would ever harm you, right? Well, not intentionally at least. Oikawa's blows were either honest words that hurt your feelings without him noticing, or calculated ones that were meant to inflict damage but weren't exactly true. Still, they added up the same way in your mind, to the point that you actually began to start believing all of them without exception. Maybe, if you weren't so prideful and insecure, you would actually manage to distinguish irrational thinking from reality. But unfortunately, you weren't confident nor humble enough for that. On top of that, your habit of bottling up your emotions and avoiding your problems instead of solving them didn't help. In other words, when your lover spoke to you that night, you had already given up on the relationship that you both had poured your heart into for the past years. Of course you don't understand. He said after you had pointed out how tired he was because of his career, or how tired he'd been lately because of his career. It's not like you were ever passionate about anything. The words had been biting on your tongue for a moment, but then you figured you had been quiet for too long already. Right, forgive me, you replied sarcastically. Oikawa's brown eyes left his plate to look at you, sensing the subtle hint of anger in your voice. To most people, it was easy to miss, but never to him. He didn't say anything for a while. It was almost like he was waiting for you. He could tell from the look in your eyes that there was a lot of things you left unsaid. So he was hoping that the silence would give you the push you needed to speak up. I'm sorry that killing myself for something so unattainable isn't my life's purpose, he told him in a monotonous voice. I'm sorry that it's difficult for you to acknowledge my perspective on the whole situation while I actually acknowledge yours. Then, just like that, you couldn't stop yourself anymore. I'm sorry that everything revolves around you, you continued. I'm sorry that I'm not ambitious enough for you, and I'm sorry that I'm clearly not good enough for you. The last words you had, your voice was quivering as your eyes filled with tears, blurring your vision. I didn't say any of that, YN, he pointed out calmly, not fazed by your sudden outburst. Of course not, but that's what you meant, so I'm answering accordingly. A few tears rolled down your cheeks as Oikawa studied you. He didn't let it show, but the young man was surprised by your concerns. He knew that he was harsh to you sometimes, but his intent was always to help you grow, just like you helped him. Nothing else. But hearing those words escape your mouth left him wondering, when did his advice turn into critics? Well, I guess our lifestyles are really uncompatible, he said, more to yourself than to him. Your lover looked at you in confusion. What was the meaning of this? It made no sense to him. Although he wasn't completely sure where this conversation was heading, he couldn't help the dread taking over him. What the fuck are you saying? He asked aggressively, starting to lose his composure. Didn't say anything, Toru. It's me. Just don't say anything. How could he stay quiet when you left him alone in the dining room, sobbing and walking away? You sat on your shared bed and cried, feeling even more worthless than what Oikawa's words would insinuate each time he would let his anger take over him. You had heard the wooden door of your bedroom open soon, however, as your lover came to sit next to you, guilt now washing over him, just like so many times before. His warm hands cupped your face gently while his thumb brushed away your tears, but the action only increased your sadness, and so more tears started to rush down your cheeks. What does this mean? He asked in a small voice. His heart was beating fast, and as soon as the question left his mouth, he regretted his action, not sure if he wanted to hear the answer. I don't know. Sometimes you really do make me feel like trash, Toru, he tried to explain. Oikawa knew that insecurities were inevitable, but he didn't expect you to be confident all the time, and he enjoyed being vulnerable with you as much as you liked being vulnerable with him. But all the years you spent together, Oikawa was only concerned with external factors, concerned that external factors were affecting your self-esteem and not him. So naturally, he felt selfish for not realizing sooner the pressure that he had put on you. But you couldn't blame him if he was guilty of not noticing that you were guilty of not telling him. You were completely aware of that fact, which was why you didn't feel anger at that moment. Maybe just regret. That wasn't my intention at all. I'm sorry, YN, Oikawa said in a soft voice, the guilt in his eyes as obvious as it ever was. I know you didn't mean it like that, but the problem is, why do I feel that way? Do you understand? In Oikawa's mind, the answer was simple. It was because of him. It was his fault. I'm sorry, I don't think before I speak when I'm mad. He wanted to smile because he knew his apologies were sincere, and he wished that this was all it took to solve your problems in the way you felt. But it didn't, and you don't think it ever would. No, you don't get it, Toru, he replied. The problem is me, not you. The reason I believe I'm not good enough for you is simply because I'm not. Oikawa's brows were furrowed in confusion as anger took over him. You know that's complete nonsense. That's the most irrational thing you've ever told me, he pointed out. But you couldn't have listened to him. You were convinced by your own worthlessness. More than he could ever be. So you argued over and over, and all the young man could do was tell you that he was sorry and that he never meant any of the harsh words he threw at you when he snapped. But it's not what you said or didn't say, Toru. That's how it fucking is. Just accept it and don't apologize to me anymore. You rarely ever screamed at him, so when your voice got stronger this time, Oikawa knew the frustration you felt and how long it had been there. YN, he called out, voice louder too, as if he wanted to wake you up. Are you hearing what you're saying right now? You didn't answer and kept sobbing quietly instead. Oikawa let out a sigh of frustration. When did we become like this? I don't know, you admitted, unable to look at his watery eyes. I'm just tired of pretending. Pretending? So is that what your relationship was now? Oikawa felt betrayed by you and by himself. Why did you keep all these thoughts to yourself for so long? Was it that you couldn't bring yourself to work for this relationship anymore, or was it because you just didn't want to? It made him sick to know that he was responsible for your feelings of worthlessness, even though he wasn't, or at least not completely. But even when you could explain yourself, he still wouldn't believe you. You wished that he'd understood that he was the brightest light you had ever met, but unfortunately, you couldn't withstand the way he shone, and now you were completely blind and alone as you spoke to him one last time. Boom! Angst, guys. You know I deliver on the Oikawa angst. I'm pretty sure like every story except for like one of the Oikawa stories I have on here is an angst. I actually didn't do too bad at reading that. I don't think I did it too fast either. I wanted to kind of just slow it down and really just sink the story into your brain, you know what I'm saying? I don't think I read that too fast. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you do, make sure to subscribe and have the notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a video, and also like the video because it does something for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye!